much. Very much. Now, consideration.
I never knew
that is
until I
met you. Please believe me, darling, 'cause you made my life complete. And now I know I'm gonna love you all of my life. You can believe me, I'm gonna hold on tight, 'cause a love like yours don't come knocking every day.
Welcome to the National Newspaper Publishers Association's Let It Be Known. And yeah, it is one of those mornings where other news seems to be a little less captivating. The death of Tina Turner stunned everyone yesterday. 83 years old, a true icon. It certainly reminds many of the death of other icons that we've lost, like Whitney Houston, Michael Jackson, Prince, and others. Tina Turner, what a life story. And one of the things that always struck me with Tina was when folks would bring up her abusive relationship with Ike. She said, you know what? She said, I had it good compared to others. That did not define me. She said, that was something that I went through, but it made me stronger. Tina Turner has died at the age of 83. Obviously, we're going to discuss that, but also this morning, a Black man who died in a bedbug-infested cell in a Georgia jail, in the psychiatric wing of the Georgia jail, died due to severe neglect, according to an independent autopsy released by his lawyers. And Amanda Gorman this morning is saying it's time to fight back after a poem of hers was banned from schools in Florida, a state where they are seeking to ban real American history. And Anne Coulter has drawn the ire again, of course, of African Americans, including Toure, who ripped her to shreds in a new opinion piece, hitting back on her racist rhetoric in response to the NAACP's travel advisory on Florida. We'll tell you what Toure wrote in his most recent column, and it's about whether Black people tip. And Netflix is officially beginning its crackdown on users who share passwords in the United States. We're going to discuss that and why Netflix is trying to dig deeper in your pockets. We discussed all of that with Andrea Carter of the Cincinnati Herald, and of course, the one and only Austin Cooper of the Washington Informer. Good morning.
Good morning, Stacey. Good morning, Andrea.
All right, listen, I mean, I know that Tina Anime is no longer with us. Y'all cannot come without energy. I need some energy.
Good morning.
I mean, my God.
Good morning, Stacey. Good morning,
I'm going back to bed.
I was just really loved your intro because I never got to see Tina in concert, but I've seen everything else, and her music is just. I grew up with her music. As an adult, she set the tone for throughout my career. I mean, it's so sad. My mother loved Tina. She loved watching her on television. My sister and I, we were discussing last night the concert that she went with my mother to see Tina in person with Richie. Lionel Richie, could not remember his first name, and how she just loved that concert because I wasn't there for that. But she took mom to the concert. I took mom to see the movie What's Love Got to Do with It, and she just loved, how the betrayal of Tina and the energy, the passion, and also her resilience.
I'm sorry, Andrea.
No, go ahead. I mean, it's just
she became a Switzerland, a citizen of Switzerland.
Yep.
She got her papers and everything. She left. With this debt ceiling thing, maybe we all might consider going to Switzerland. But I'm glad y'all picking it up because even Bobby Henry comes on this morning talking about praying and bringing us down even more. But anyway,
I grew up. my mom had all of Tina Turner's album, and it's interesting. And I'll speak for myself as I get older, and some of these music icons pass. You begin to reflect on the impact, directly, indirectly, they had on your life. So when Michael died, I felt that I lost a part of my childhood. When Prince died, I felt I lost a part of my young adulthood. And
Mhm.
now with Tina Turner, I feel like I've lost a part of my childhood. I mean, as Andrea said, what a remarkable woman on stage and off stage as well. I mean, her what better comeback kid or comeback lady, comeback icon than the great legendary Tina Turner.
I
I
love the story. I was telling someone the story. I'm sorry, Andrea, just
no.
yesterday, after 1976, when she left Ike, and she got the divorce. She when she split from Ike, they had this big fight, and she went to a hotel. She didn't have any money with her, and her clothes were bloodied. And she told the hotel, "Look, I'm Tina Turner. I will pay for this eventually. Just let me stay here." And she did. And in court, famous scene in court that was borne out in the What's Love Got to Do with the movie. Well, I mean, Angela Bassett and Lawrence Fishburne,
Mhm.
really, really did a Oscar type performance there.
Mhm.
But she said she was taking her name back. So in 1976, she and Ike finally split. She finally got away from him, and she was pretty much without anything except her name. Ike took everything. She allowed Ike to take everything. She didn't fight for it. She was pretty much Ike blackballed her. She couldn't even get on talk shows. And she tells the story that Mick Jagger and David Bowie came to Johnny Carson and others in the night show circuit and said, "You need to have Tina on."
On.
And so they really helped her out. And then they started to set things up where she could record. And Tina told David and Mick, "Look, if this is about sex, it's not happening." He said, "If you want to help me, I would love your help, but you're not getting it." So,
Yeah.
but then she went on and did that, the private dancer, and like you said, comeback kid. We can go down the list, starting with her performances with Ike, of course. She injected an uninhibited volcanic stage presence
Yeah.
into pop.
Yeah.
She was just well before her time, obviously, and she just kind of took over. When they say queen of rock and roll,
Oh
you know
yeah,
what? There's
I
no
think she not only did she affect the ages. I think the biggest honor is when people start seeing your stuff and emulating you.
Yes.
And I think some of our younger people really know her music. If you're a Glee fan, they did some of her iconic songs on Glee
Mhm.
and did it well. And I think that is something that if people go back and look for those shows where they sang Tina, and it was there was a nice rejuvenation of her music, and then go on to see Private Dancer and listen to those albums, and then she's just for the ages. She's just
Well, her message was one that certainly resounded or resonated with generations of women. Was She said, "Look, I mean, she showed that she could hold her own on stage against any man."
That's right. That's right.
oh, that's right.
And Ike knew that. And Ike knew that. That's why he was trying to, be the controlling, what that he was when either not only when they were together, but for the remainder of his life, as I recall reading. He would just spend, his remaining days trying to punish her for leaving him. And it goes to show, when you have a burning desire for success, no matter the odds, despite the trials and the tribulations. It's up to each of us to keep that inner fire, that inner spirit burning. And thank God, she did. Yes, she had the support of Mick Jagger and David Bowie and others, but it was really Tina's inner spirit, inner fire and think, homegirl and Stacy, how many lives that she saved by going public with women who were in abusive relationships. The average woman says, my God, this superstar Tina Turner is going through what I'm going through. She's got money, she's got fame, and she left. And if she can leave, then I can leave.
Well, I think the movie, and to your point, Austin, you're absolutely spot on, because when the movie came out in 1993, there was a lot of talk recentering on domestic violence, and so you can only imagine, like you said, how many lives she did save. She was born Anna Mae Bullock in Tennessee in 1939 and started her career in 1958 as the lead singer for Ike Turner and his Kings of Rhythm band. Later, of course, they came to be known as the Ike and Tina Review, and spun out hit after hit with songs like Nutbush City Limits and River Deep. And of course, everybody knows Proud Mary. She keeps on burning. But Austin and Andrea, I have a question. Any of you see Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome?
Yes.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so I saw it too, and I saw it when it first came out in 1985. I still don't know what it's about.
Me neither. Me neither. But it was action packed. And you know what I enjoyed more than the movie? I enjoyed the soundtrack.
Oh, that's why I went to see it.
I was in LA with a classmate, and we went to see this in 1992, 1993, whenever it was, that summer, July, when it first came out. And I'm sitting there like, what the hell is this movie about? But I was so intrigued by the movie that I went out and got the CD. And in fact, I still listen to it through Apple Music.
It's one of those things. Movies are like, what's the point? And other than world as we know was destroyed, and what survives, and how people rule law, crime, whatever, and the resiliency of people in a very unique situation. And it did make sense, but there was battles, there was stuff blew up, and there was great music. And I think that's the best thing. It was the music. So
And Greer just showed, have you ever seen anybody eat an apple like that? If you see someone bite into an apple like that, run as fast as you can in the other direction.
Like I said, I don't even care what the movie's about. I did see it. Can't tell you. I remember all those scenes, but look, Tina Turner won 12 Grammy Awards, sold an estimated 180 million records worldwide. She was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2001 and 2008. After taking a hiatus from performing, she toured the world for her 50th anniversary in show business. So Tina Turner really remained. She remained active until she couldn't. She said it was time to go.
But I think also the best part of her story is the fact that she found real love and respect from a man who didn't beat her, but loved her, became her partner, and in fact that she was willing to move where he lived to be happy and didn't regret it whatsoever. And I think that's the true essence of a happy ending of a story that started out with bad moments and ended up with her happily ever after, so to speak.
Well, she described living a good life overall. I still want to know the answer to the $66,000 question: is how does a Black woman from Nutbush, Tennessee, with a Southern accent turn into one with a British accent and become a Switzerland resident? Anybody got the answer to that?
Love.
Love.
I mean, you will do
love has to do with it.
That's what love has to do with it.
Yeah, and I think that's the best thing about it. She found a guy who loved her for her and got her. And she also got him, and she was like, you know what? I don't have to be here. I can go. Her kids were grown, so she went, and everyone followed her, and she came back for a visit or two. But
Yeah.
she did what she had to do to be happy and survive.
And
And I
I think she had 4 children, 2 with Ike and
mhm.
2 later in life, if I remember correctly. But she had a series of health issues in recent
Yes.
years. Dialysis, cancer, and didn't she have a son who just last December died of suicide or died of
Yes.
illness?
Yes, her 2 children that she had died, one by suicide, one recently, and then she adopted Ike's 2 sons.
Oh, did
And
she?
so
That I was not aware of.
She did.
yeah, in fact, I've been reading some background on her, and the Guardian had that she adopted Ike Turner's 2 sons, and because they ended up calling her mom, and I think there was a little bit of it touched in the movie, and she survived by them, so it's going to be interesting.
I
Talk
was
about
always
a
under
heart
the
of
impression.
forgiveness.
Go ahead, Austin. I'm sorry.
I'm just saying, talk about a heart of forgiveness.
Oh yeah. How about that? And she really did. I thought was what was awesome when Ike was released. If you remember, after the movie, Ike was in prison for a while, and when he was released, and he was telling his story. She totally ignored him. She would not give him any type of feedback. She would not, validate anything he would say by responding. She just ignored it. Media members attempted to ask her about Ike's account, and she just ignored it. She wouldn't give it any type of, if you don't want something to gain any steam, sometimes that's just the way to go. She lived that abuse. She lived that violence, and she had no responsibility to respond to Ike once he decided that, or once he was given a platform. She did not, she felt no need to, and good for her, because
Good.
it really, it really worked to her advantage.
That's revenge.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, her success is the best revenge, because if he had treated her decently, he would have been part of that future success, so to speak. And instead, he tried to denigrate it because he's been denigrated. But
Mhm.
You have to take responsibility for your own actions. Unlike other people who don't seem to know how to do that. But it's just one of those things of that her success is also her biggest achievement, and she
Yeah.
found love, life, happiness, and a successful career despite bad moments. And I think that's the true role model for everyone, to show that even if you're given lemons, you can make lemonade.
Well, Deborah Latham White writes in that Tina's performance was fierce as the acid queen in Tommy, and Claudette Perry, another reason why Tina left, she says, U.S. racism, and Bobby Henry adds that what also helped brought Tina through it all was self-love. So all of those things combined, and you get to see the life of Tina Turner.
Oh yeah. And I think, just think emotionally, she had to overcome a lot to get to the point of where she was able to revive her career and move forward. And that takes a lot of self-confidence, a lot of self-love to overcome those emotional difficulties, especially when people were telling you not good enough, you're nothing, whatever abusers tell their victims. And for her to overcome all of that, to be successful, like you said, she helped save a lot of women's lives.
Just to conclude on this is, when I was talking about Ike and his response to What's Love Got to Do with It, saying that, it wasn't all true. Let me tell you something. If 1% of that movie was true, it was horrible.
Yes.
And we know he didn't deny 100% of it. So, he has absolutely no case.
No credibility.
Tina Turner, the icon, the queen of rock and roll, has died at the age of 83.
It's so good. It is so heartwarming to read all of the tributes.
Yes.
World,
oh yes.
Political world. I mean, President Biden issued a statement, President Obama, President Clinton. I mean, she just touched lives across all all areas. So it's very nice to read the deserving tributes to her.
Yeah, the White House did issue a statement late yesterday from the president, and also, like you said, Barack and Michelle Obama issued a statement as well. In fact, I'll go ahead and see if I can't read that statement from the Obamas. They mentioned how Tina Turner was raw, she was powerful, she was unstoppable, she was unapologetically herself. Today, we join fans in mourning as the world, with the rest of the world, in honoring the queen of rock and roll and a star whose light will never fade. That is from Michelle and Barack Obama.
Amen. Rest in peace.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so we also this morning a disturbing story that we've been following. A man who died in a bedbug-infested cell in Georgia's jail's psychiatric wing died due to severe neglect, according to an independent autopsy. And it seems like some emergency stuff going on somewhere in Cincinnati.
Yeah, I have some emergency people going past my window, so sorry about that.
But this LaShawn Thompson, 35 years old, died in September, and three months after he was booked into the Fulton County Jail in Atlanta. Public outrage over his death spread, as we know, after Michael Harper, the family's lawyer, released photos of Thompson's face and body covered in insects. It was just horrible to see. So the family decided to have an independent autopsy, and they found what they believe to be the truth. And now they are calling for Fulton County to do something about it. That's awful.
I mean, just horrible. Inmates, regardless of why they're there. We know many of our brothers and sisters are there who should not be there, but they are human beings and deserve to be housed in not comfortable, but livable conditions. So this is just an atrocity. And the sad reality is there are more cases like this. We're just hearing about this. Yeah. But there are, I'm sure, countless others, probably in Fulton County and elsewhere in the country.
Yeah, the autopsy, and so it's important, I think, who they got to do this independent autopsy. They got a real top person, Dr. Roger A. Mitchell Jr., who was a former chief medical examiner in Washington, D.C., who is also a professor and chair of the pathology department at Howard University College of Medicine. The independent autopsy report lists the cause of death as complications due to severe neglect. He was neglected to death, Austin.
How old was he, Stacey?
He was what did we say? How old was Mr. Thompson? Mr. 35 years old.
Oh, it's hard to believe that the jail conditions like that exist.
Oh,
I mean, they do, but it's hard to believe that in this day and age, you would think at least some decency, the conditions, especially in jail, would be cleaner than that. That is horrible. You can just tell it's not been cleaned, has not been sanitized. It's filthy.
It's never been cleaned or sanitized. Never.
It's and then on top of that, he's probably he was in the mental health ward.
Yes.
So that even makes it worse. Because how some mental health individuals are treated in this country. So that's you put them off in a corner and just leave them, and you don't deal with them. But you can't do that, because at the end of the day, it's going to come back to hurt you. And it's I've not experienced jail situations, I'm very happy to say, but you would think that at least they're human beings, and even if they are behind bars for a variety of reasons, at least they have a right to a decent place to live and stay while they deal with whatever they're going through. And I know the reason why the jail is set up a certain way, but at the same time, they got to be clean. They got to be, you have to provide certain things. But then again, depending on how certain states treat their individuals and their attitudes, I am not surprised by this.
Yeah,
I'm saddened, but not surprised.
And Michelle's Delicious Delights agrees 100% with you. Once again, let it be known, brought to you by Michelle's Delicious Delights. That sounds like a good thing, Michelle. Let's talk. Angela Connolly says, you would be shocked of the same conditions in nursing facilities.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, it's wow. And Power 96 has no love for correctional officers, as he writes in. I think there are people who feel that way. What happens there, Austin, right? These many corrections officers, probably not all, but many, they're in there with, and in some cases, real hardened criminals, and they're corrections officers are known for a lot of overtime, so they're spending 16 hours or more a day in prison, right? So you can kind of see them taking on certain traits and personalities, right?
Exactly. And it is our hope that it clearly doesn't happen as often as it should, but that time in prison, we will rehabilitate at least some prisoners, so that once they have served their time, they will come out and be responsible members and contributing members of society. But think of the impact of conditions like what this brother went through, and other brothers and sisters are going through, who spend time in these types of conditions, no matter how long. I mean, what impact does that have on you mentally? And what type of mental shape are you going to be in when and if you're released, having lived in those types of conditions?
Yeah. And the thing we have to remember and think about, there are people who truly belong in prison, and there are people in prison that you could care less about their conditions, but there are many in prison for certain offenses, certain crimes. Do they deserve to be punished for whatever they may have done? Probably, but that is not the punishment that they should be subjected to.
You remember you made me just think of remember the movie that Richard Pryor did with Gene Wilder?
Yes.
And he did a comedy routine afterwards. And
Stir crazy.
Yes.
Talk to the prisoners, and he said, "Thank God for penitentiaries."
Yes.
He asked one guy, "Why did you kill everybody in the house?" And the guy said, "They were home."
They were home. Because they were home. And he, like you said, thank God for penitentiaries. Bobby Henry says, when you have the mental, psychic, that rehabilitation is for hospitals. Healing institutions are for criminals who don't deserve fair treatment. Yeah, I get what Bobby's saying. Mental, if you have a mental crisis, you shouldn't be. You should be in a certain hospital, and criminals should be in prison. Now, the overall statement that criminals don't deserve fair treatment, I think everybody deserves some sort of fair treatment, right, Bobby? A little bit.
Well, I think everyone deserves a little bit of fair treatment. I also work as a community engagement specialist, working on safety issues, and I deal with gentlemen, especially young men, who are returning citizens from jail, and they're getting used to being back out in public and dealing with how to find a job, you have a roof over their head, things like that. Their attitude, they're in survival mode because you don't know what conditions they endured in prison, whether it's decent or ill, or horrible, but they're all trying to figure out what they're going to do next. But everyone, no matter if you go to jail to pay for a crime, you at least do to humane facilities, and be treated respectfully, even if you did something horrible. Unless you're so horrible that you get what you get. But I mean, it's just basic. If you treat people the way you want to be treated, and sometimes when you have a little bit of power, you go off the rails. And unfortunately, some jailers, that happens to them. So when you're overseeing people.
Let me clarify, Bobby. Bobby wrote in that he said he didn't say criminals don't deserve fair treatment when those who have that type of mentality feel that way. not me. And right, he's absolutely right. Many don't feel like they deserve fair treatment. Those and many who imprisoned them don't feel that way. Claudette Perry says prison is for both punishment and, with a capital and, rehabilitation. You cannot be rehabilitated if you're being digged.
Yes.
So Andrea, I'm a PK. Stacey already knows this, and even PKs go off the rails. I'm about to go off the rails. So I am concerned about prison conditions, but there's one person who I could care less what his conditions.
Dogged. I'm
are.
sorry. I'm sorry.
I can guess who that is. So I can really guess who that is.
I could care less. It wouldn't even faze me.
Well, I mean, think about it. We're all taught to take responsibility for our own actions.
Yes.
Hey, who are you talking about?
But when you can guess. I'm not going to say the number or the name, but he lies all the time.
Bobby Henry says, "Who's that? Derek Chauvin?"
Well, him definitely. I could care less about him too.
Yeah. I mean, it's just one of those things of where, if you enable someone, enable, and never make them take responsibility, you're going to get the impact of them on the world. We're experiencing it now. And I think, and when he's finally slowly getting a taste of having to take responsibility for his actions, he's fighting it. And he has other people helping him to fight it. At some point, you have to say, you weren't spanked enough. My mother used to tell me that all the time. Before she passed, she used to tell me all the time, you weren't spanked enough. I was like, I was not spanked enough. And I'm just like, and I had a smart mouth, but again, her side.
I was spanked enough. I am not going to sit here and say, try and be that way.
I stand up for myself.
The first time I was spanked, it was too much. So that's enough. Enough of that. Amanda Gorman, guys, is the nation's first national youth poet laureate. She spoke out against what she described as a book ban after access to the poem she recited at President Biden's inauguration was limited at a Florida school. Miami-Dade County Public Schools moved the hill we climb to the middle school section of the library after a parent filed a formal objection to the work, according to documents obtained by the Florida Freedom to Read Project and shared with the media. Amanda Gorman tweeted she found out that the parent who wrote that complaint belongs to a group that champions white supremacy.
Well,
and this lady did not even read the book, because she said the author of the book was Oprah Winfrey. Oprah Winfrey wrote the foreword.
Yes.
She did not write the book. But think about this, this young sister. And I forget how old she is, but I remember watching her at President Biden's inauguration. We as a nation were traumatized. It was less than 2 weeks after the insurrection. Behind at the Capitol, you could still see scenes, signs of the destruction that had boarded up windows, etc. And this young lady stepped forward, and with her powerful chosen words, helped us along the path of healing as a nation. What is there possibly to be offended about in that poem? Truth. What words did she express that any parent, black, white, would not want to share with their children and say, this is an inspiration to you, to your generation, to my generation, and to future generations yet unborn, yet born?
Truth. People who object to other people cannot handle the reality of their situation, and they can't handle when people speak, think, do better than they are, and they want to denigrate it. And the fact that across the country we're seeing book banning in several different states, cities, I think it's horrible. But also at the same time, for each book that is banned, there is a group of individuals taking that banned book and setting and presenting it in a different way so students have a chance to read it. And the fact that there was a group of high school students, I think in Florida, who formed a group and made sure, went out and bought those books that were banned so they could be informed and read them. I think that's going to be our saving grace, that for everyone, as people continue to deny, there are other people pushing back and saying no.
Power 96 says, "Oh, go ahead."
No, I'm just saying that it's, as a book reader, a book lover myself, I find it distasteful that anyone would ban a book. I mean, we have so many different ways of being able to read a book now. It's horrifying to think that someone's going to ban them. I'm surprised they haven't had a book burning. No, wait a minute, take that back.
Oh, that's next. No.
but I mean, I'm just saying is that it's to regulate reading material like that, just because someone Black wrote it is dumb. But again, desegregation survived for a long time before it didn't. If people are trying to go back to that time period, and it's not fruitful to do it. It's not fruitful to face the truth of a situation or the printed word. Exactly. Because at the end of the day, even though people have denied our history, we still found a way to preserve it, that we could learn about it and teach it. Truth survives.
Truth. What was it? Lies run sprints. Truth runs marathons.
Truth must rise again.
Yeah, Power 96 says Florida is showing it's in Alabama, but Timothy Williams says Florida is showing it's Florida. Rosewood is in Florida, Timothy says. But I wanted to go back, because speaking of Timothy Williams, she and Bobby Henry, I'm going to digress a bit to our last story, because they said, I missed their comments on this because it is hilarious. Bobby says, "You all have never had a whooping. Y'all talking about being spanked." And Timothy says, she used to fake heart attacks to stop getting whoops. So I have heart disease.
Let's put it like this. There are people who got whooped. In the Midwest, we get spanked. Come on, it's the same thing, just different connotation.
David Youngblood, I agree. He says we should name the people who insist on books being removed. Absolutely. Sometimes when you call it out publicly, at least some of them will back down. I want to move on, though, with the question. Are Black people bad tippers? Is that a myth? Well, as you know, the NAACP issued as we talked about in this program earlier this week, a travel advisory for Florida, basically discouraging Black people from going there because the state has become, according to the NAACP, openly hostile toward African Americans. In response, though, of all people had to open her mouth, Anne Coulter, she tweeted this. She says, NAACP issues warning to African Americans to avoid visiting Florida. Employees in restaurant and tourism industry brace for a 0.00% drop in tips. Well, Toure lashed out, and he had receipts. He says that sort of overt racism is unacceptable. She's saying, who cares about Black people not going to Florida because they don't tip? She's dismissing Black concerns about Florida with the back of her pasty hand, as if it's okay to ignore Black protests against Florida because, Blacks don't tip. Ha, ha, ha. This is the modern GOP. Republicans say racist things in public and then wonder why most Black and brown people don't even consider voting for them. That said, part of why Coulter's tweet is so annoying is that there is a there. He says, I hate to say it, but I know some of us aren't big on tipping. I know some of us think of the tip as a place where we can save a little money. It's also true that many of us, like me, he says, tip 20% automatically anytime we are out at a restaurant, and some of us overtip as a way of trying to overcome the stereotype.
I tip based on service. If you did a good job, you get 20%. If you did a somewhat good job, you get 15%. If you're mediocre, you get a mediocre tip or no tip. I mean, in this day and age, there some Black people who don't tip, yeah. And they're probably not used to it. I
But
know
there's some white people who don't tip.
There are white people who don't tip too.
There are white people who don't tip. They
Yeah.
get mad and or take the tip money off the table as they walk past.
Mm-hmm.
But I think at the same time, I think Black people tip based on service because we know bad service. And
I just got a text from somebody that says, "Let it be known I tried to call you." I just have to share that. It was way off topic, but I did. I just got a text from somebody who said, "Let it be known I tried to call you." It's just, you know, they don't get a tip.
I mean, Anne Coulter is Anne Coulter. I mean, come on, it's Anne Coulter. You know, it's sad, but I think at the same time, I like eating in good restaurants. I like good service. I worked as a waiter. I worked, you know, at a, I've worked several times as a waiter. I know bad service. I know good service. I pay for good service because I like eating well and I like being served well.
Right.
And I mean, you get what you pay for. And when it's bad, it's bad. And especially, you know, some people object to tipping people because you're just going to pick up your food over the counter and they say, "Do you want a tip?" Well, if I'm picking it up, you don't get a tip because you're doing your job.
Exactly.
There is a reality to certain situations of tipping, but at the same time, if a clerk is really, really good and does over top service, go ahead, tip them. But
I did a story just about a week or so ago on how now they have machines and self-service lines and machines looking for tips, asking for tips, and even in the self-service line. And I think that's pretty ridiculous. I don't like tipping where there's no service.
Exactly.
That's become more and more popular as well. I do feel the need to tip. In fact, we had on a program not long ago, maybe a month or so, we had Dawn Montgomery on, and I had asked Dawn, what happens when you don't have cash? Because we don't really carry cash anymore, most of us, right?
Right.
So and so when you're on an Amtrak train, for instance, or a place where you gotta leave and the person has helped you or served you or whatever, what do you do if you don't have cash? And Dawn said, asking for their cash app.
Exactly.
Yeah. Or Venmo or Zelle or
yeah, I'll do all that. I'll do all that.
But I'm just saying it's there's a way. If you want to tip somebody, there's a way to do it. There's a way to get them cash. I've even, when I said, look, you know what, I don't have any change, let me go get change and I'll be right back. Not that I carry money with me all the time because I'm used to my debit card, but I'm just a believer in you pay for what you want. And for every type of service, I don't believe in tipping in, if this self-serve line, I don't believe in tipping for self-service process.
Well,
because
also,
you know what, you're covering their fees for processing checks and debit cards. That's what that is. You're covering their banking fees. I'm not going to cover your banking fees. I'm paying for a service. If I get good service, I'm going to pay you and I'm going to tip you. If I'm doing my own service, you're not getting a tip. Unless, of course, it's a unique situation like during COVID. You know, you're going to help an individual out because that was a unique situation. But, you know, I'm about paying for, if I'm expected to work and do a good job, I expect you to work and do a good job as well, and then be rewarded based on that, what you do.
Well, let me ask you a question, Austin. We when you have a service, again, people that, at least myself, my wife, my family, and people I know, friends, we tip religiously. We will not tip, right? And you know, the bare minimum is 15 or 20%. You're going to at least get the bare minimum from us. Most of the time it's more. But my question, Austin, so you've had this, I'm sure you may have had this experience before, because we've had it. A person, you go into the restaurant, you get seated, and you're sitting there 30 minutes before the waiter or waitress brings you any water or puts bread on the table. Then you sit there another 15, 25 minutes before they even ask you, would you like something to drink? and then you put your drink order in, and then they come back a half hour later with the drinks and ask you for your dinner order. And they in the restaurant's not crowded.
Yep. And in my mind, there are a bunch of negative signs. All you're doing each minute, you're just decreasing, your own tip. Because if I've had to wait, 45 minutes, between getting served and being fed, and then that's just going to impact your tip, especially if you're not crowded. I do believe, like my sister, I do believe in tipping. Tipping generously for good service. I always put myself in in their shoes. I try to engage waiters and waitresses in conversation. So how long you've been working here? What's your family life like? Just trying to make a connection. I went to Domino's last night to pick up 16 pizzas for a community board meeting that I was a part of, and the bill came to $140. And as I'm putting my card on, I almost burst out laughing because it said, like, gave you options for tips. I like no, and no. But getting back to
that's a no.
Exactly. Getting back to Anne Coulter, as Chris said, she's a racist. Keep in mind, this is the same Anne Coulter who went after the great legendary LeBron James when he smacked back at Trump for some of his racist comments. And didn't she tell him just shut up and dribble?
Yes.
Yeah. So Anne Coulter has no credibility.
No.
Nasty Domino's. Timothy Williams says that Domino's is nasty. Michelle, what?
Who said that?
Michelle Madison says that it's all a lie, or at least in her family. The hashtag Sequoia restaurant got over $300 in tips for hosting my nephew's graduation party last night. Michelle Madison is always doing something. Michelle, we got to hang out with you. She's always got something going on. And Deborah Latham White says, I tip based on service. I worked as a server back in the day. I know what it's like to have a crappy customer try to demean a server by not tipping. David Youngblood said that, first of all, he agreed that it's true. Black people are generally not good tippers, but he says he waited tables for 6 years. So I guess he has some experience. And a programming note from Bobby Henry. We will be discussing, he says, the NAACP's travel ban to Florida on our 2-minute warning show tonight, right here on the Black Press Networks. He says our guest will be Harold Ford, South Miami's first president of the NAACP branch, and activist Ben Frazier from the North Side Coalition out of Jacksonville. He says we will try to bring some understanding to the need and why it is important to understand. We will remember attorney H.T. Smith boycott of Miami when they snubbed Nelson Mandela and understand what it means to have a successful boycott. Wow. Bobby, how much you paying me for that promo? Oh, no.
You know what? I mean, my father lives in
Watch
Florida.
Bobby tonight, though. At 7 o'clock, at the 2-minute warning right here, these same networks, the 2-minute warning. Please watch the West Side Gazette's 2-minute warning, just to finish that promo to enhance my royalty check from Bobby.
Yeah, you deserve a nice tip from Bobby.
Oh yeah, very nice tip.
8 o'clock, 8 o'clock, and he says he'll give me a bottle of scotch.
Oh, well, it depends on what type of scotch. But anyway, that's another.
He knows.
I would just say that when I saw the news about the travel advisor, I was like, my father lives in Florida. And, I always call up and I always tease my sister, like, what's your governor doing now? She's like, it's not my governor. I didn't vote for him, blah, 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 blah. But I mean, you take the connotation of there are some good people in Florida and there's some dumb people in Florida. And unfortunately, the dumb stuff is ruling right now in Florida and to the detriment of their wallet.
But wait a minute. So speaking of dumb stuff, did you notice the unveiling, the presidential announcement gone wrong?
I was laughing. I mean, Elon Musk, DeSantis, and what was that? I mean, you would think they would have checked the equipment out before they went live.
Thank you.
I mean, you don't, if you're going to be presidential, be presidential. stuff works. It's smooth.
It's a sign of things to come.
Even Tim Scott's his announcement.
The Tim Scott dance.
Well, his dance, but he talked about what his nephew said, but it went smooth. Come on.
It was smooth.
In other words, there were no technical issues on national stage. But come on.
My goodness. Let me tell you something, Andrea.
Trump said it was a disaster.
Trump said
when Greer unveiled the Tim Scott dance the other day on the program, I thought we'd have to end the show. I felt like I got hit by like an Ali, hook. I was like, ref, throw in the towel.
But I'm not surprised because DeSantis, even when he quote wins his objectives, he bumbles it, and I call him Baby Trump for a reason, because he wants to be like Mike, but he's not Mike, and he's proven every single day he ain't Mike, he ain't even Trump. And there's a reason.
Timothy Williams said that dance was a technical issue. That Tim Scott did. We're experiencing technical difficulties here. Bobby Henry says, just as messy as that was, that's the same type of stuff we will get if these people are successful. On a serious note, Austin.
Absolutely. So, and how do you, it's interesting watching this dance by those who have announced, Tim Scott and DeSantis and the former governor of South Carolina, running against Trump without attacking Trump. At a certain point, you got to take the gloves off, and
it's gonna be interesting to see the debates.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. Even last night, I listened to parts of the announcement. Not really taking on Trump, still trying to appeal to that base. You've got Mike Pence, who will likely announce in the coming weeks. And, Mike Pence is still afraid after his life was threatened by these Trump supporters, still afraid to take a swing. Now, it may be your last swing, but you got to be ready for Trump, because he's going to come back at you hard. But I don't see how any of these folks are going to be successful unless they really just confront Trump.
You have to.
Certainly reticent to do that.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things of where not only do you have to make your stand and prove who you are so that people can see what type of candidate you are, but if you can't criticize your opponent, you can't put them on the ropes. Forget you. If you can't come out
since sliced bread, but I want to win the election myself. But he's the best thing since sliced bread.
If you can't come out swinging, you have no hope. And so far, everyone who's in, Larry Elder, Nikki Haley, Aisha Hutchinson, Mike Pence, Tim Scott. Oh God, his teeth. Come on. If you can't come out swinging,
yeah.
I am not claiming the things we do. I am not claiming responsibility for that photo.
Wow,
I can't believe you did that,
I'm gonna move on before we close. We gotta get to Netflix. Netflix, oh my gosh. You're expecting like this, you're expecting a hyena to start, laughing or whatever. Netflix is officially beginning its crackdown on users who share passwords in the United States. The streaming company on this week said it is now sending out emails to all U.S. subscribers who share passwords with people outside their household as part of a long-planned move to limit password sharing. Give me a break. I can't use your Netflix account anymore, Austin.
Yeah, I'm guilty. I share it. I share it with my daughter. So I plead. I can't even plead the fifth on this. I'm just guilty.
I'm gonna start using Barrington's Netflix account. Who knows what we might find, right?
You're gonna probably need the CIA and the FBI to crack
I know.
Really and truly, sharing your password, I understand that they're upset they're not getting all that individual fee money, so to speak. But at the same time, there's a reason why you share a password. You have a paying customer.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
I mean, at the end of the day, they're committed. I mean, I'm committed to, I have a number of streaming channels. It hurts my pocketbook every month. But at the same time, there's you still have a paying customer. I think you have to take a step back and assess, do you want more revenue or do you want your viewing numbers? What's more important to you?
They definitely want more revenue.
You know what? If you want more revenue, then you're going to lose customers, because at the end of the day, there's enough streaming channels out there that people can get what they want and they're going to see what they want.
Exactly.
Yeah. They want to add an additional $7.99 a month to a member's account who share their password. Deborah Latham White says, where there's a will, there's a way to deal with Netflix. Is there a way around it?
Drop them.
Nobody wants to say. I don't want to say it publicly. Like Austin gave that.
I'm technically challenged. If there's a way around, I don't know it. But at the same time, I'm a customer and I can very easily find another way. It's, as much as I like their original programming and then the other content, I have enough streaming channels. I can go someplace else. So I think
the company said they started their clampdown on password sharing in several countries earlier this year, including Canada, New Zealand, Portugal, and Spain. And they recently reported a net increase of 1.75 million global streaming subscribers in the first quarter, which is up nearly 5% from the same period last year, but below the more than 3 million that Wall Street had expected. They said in an earnings call last month that they've seen a cancel reaction in each market when we announced the news about the paid sharing option, but then they see an increased acquisition and revenue. So to your point, Andrea, they are losing subscribers, but they've seen an increase in revenue, which I think is what they care most about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But you know what? At the end of the day, it's about the customer. And for those who can afford, instead of sharing it, they say, okay, I'll go ahead and get it myself. They're going to do that. But for those who are like, you know what? Okay, bye. It just
bye, Felicia.
Bye. I mean, it's just like when you walk into a retail store, you look around, you assess, and you decide if you want that product or not. Those who don't want the product, go to a different streaming service. Those who do want the product because they have something that you want to see. But what's interesting is that they said in the first quarter. Well, we're in the fourth quarter. What's happening? What happened?
No, we're not in the fourth quarter.
Fiscal year. For fiscal year, we're in the fourth quarter.
Is that right?
Because the new fiscal year starts in July 1st. So we're in
That's right. For exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
They're quoting the first quarter. First quarter was last year. Yep. That was last summer. They're talking about their numbers from last summer. They're not talking about second, third quarter, even what's happening now in the fourth quarter. So even though the first quarter they're saying, oh yeah, we did this, but you know what? After people saw what they saw, they probably dropped them. So
I was about to call you someone else, Andrea. Please give John Michelle our best and Walter White as well, and tell them that we are waiting with bated breath to see them in Tennessee next month for the NMPA's summer convention. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of great stuff there. So please tell them, come on out. Tell them that we're not taking no for an answer. We want the Cincinnati Herald well represented at the NMPA's conference, like everyone else. Bobby's going to be there. Bobby is definitely going to be there. He's probably going to bring his entourage, his bodyguards, and all those things. Like Austin travels that way too, by the way. I just want y'all to know. Austin travels with a posse. So.
Yeah, my posse is me, myself, and I.
So we definitely want to see everyone there. It's it's June. What's that? June 27th, the last Wednesday in June. It kicks off, and it lasts through the weekend. Bobby says we're coming. Bobby said we are coming. Notice that we're coming. It's not right. I see all y'all travel with. It's just me. All y'all travel with entourages. I know Andrea. He's got a posse. She bring John Michelle, Walter White, all those people like that, y'all important folks travel
But
with
we're
us.
going to travel. We're going to get there commercial, Delta, American, whatever. Bobby's coming on Air Force One.
Oh yeah, without question. And so we will see him on Air Force One. And as we close today, we certainly again remember the legend Tina Turner, who died yesterday at 83. Tina Turner, our condolences to her husband and her family. Thanks for watching, and we will see you tomorrow.